Hello, my name is Andrew Peischer, and like many of you and most of the world today, I see something inherently wrong with the way our society, particularly our economics in this country, is structured. Today I don't resonate with the way our culture operates, and this off-putting feeling led me years ago to search for the cause of why economics fail. I wanted to know where wars come from, and why people do very little projects as a community. That's when I came across this invisible structure of how we exchange energy from one human to another. The almighty US dollar. You see, I can't give anything to you, and you cannot give anything to me without exhausting our personal resources, or unless we use the US dollar to exchange that energy. Sure, using barter exchanges works too, but it's very rare that both parties are receiving an equal exchange. One party is always missing out or feel like they had to compromise more than the other party. And that means the share of energy was not fairly divided, and that can lead to some issues. I actually have written down 26 things that I've done and that I'm passionate about, and that I've actually been paid for. Each of these 26 different skills, services I can provide to my community. I can go out right now and start a business around any one of those 26 things. Problem is, I don't want to. No matter how passionate I am about one of those 26 things, I will always have a passion come up for something else. I'm an arborist. I take care of trees. It's my thing. I love it. And I have been doing it all day, every day for the last 3 years. But I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely losing my passion. And if I get to go a week without working on trees, man, when I get reunited with those trees, I am so happy. It's like falling in love with what I do all over again. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for these days. They don't want to have to do one thing all day, every day for the rest of their lives. There's too many options now. We don't need to have people doing one thing. When my passion comes up, I want to be able to live it out, because that's when I do my best work. And these are all services I can be providing to my community. I don't want to have a lack of energy or a lack of time to be able to provide that for anybody when they need it. So why are we considering a local currency? Well, I looked on the PayScale Human Capital website to see what's going on in today's world around work and jobs and industry. And what I found is that a lot of people today feel like they're underemployed, which means that they're overeducated, they're underpaid, and they're underworked. So what does that mean? It means there's people out there that are looking for full-time jobs that only have part-time jobs. There's people out there that have a college degree, but they're working a job that doesn't utilize any of those skills. So I think that's one of the big challenges we have, and I think the reason for it is because we have a hard time relating to our community what it is that we can provide for them, because it costs us money. There's that invisible structure of money holding us back. There's a serious lack that's happening in our families today. I used Arizona. I went to the National Center for Child Poverty and went straight to Arizona to see what it was like here, and I was kind of surprised to find out that 51% of children in our state live in a household where they can't even fill the basic needs of a family of 4. They're not making enough money, they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough support. But I do guarantee that every single one of those people has a skill that's being underutilized and unappreciated. And the funny thing is, people are working today just as much as they have in the past, or more. And it shows by our GDP increasing year after year after year. Our country makes more, produces more, and it is more every year. Yet you see our wages decreasing and diminishing, people making less and less money. So why is it that this is happening? This is actually from the Federal Reserve website. This is information you can get right from their website, and someone put it into this graph that makes it easy for us to understand. Okay, so here we see the reason why, as our gross domestic product increases and the value of our country goes up, our wages go down. And that's because our Federal Reserve is printing way too many legal notes. As you can see, since 1999, the amount of US dollars in circulation has doubled twice. So in the last 16 years, your dollar value has been cut into 1/4 of what it normally should be. And because that happened here in the United States and the federal dollar is a global currency, this is happening to people all around the world. That's why we have so many wars. That's why in the news you see people talking about a replacement currency for the US dollar. They're talking about moving away because our dollar is about to default. Soon we will have a valueless currency. So this is what's going on. We have no control over the value of our dollar. It's up to these people that run the Federal Reserve to make the value of the dollar. And then one of my favorite presidents, Andrew Jackson, I want to talk to you about another time in history when this had happened. When the United States Bank was corrupt and just kind of like it is today. I mean, I really can't say anything else except for we're going through a repeat in history. Like they say, history repeats itself. Andrew Jackson had a very hard time. In his second term, he was going after the banks. He wanted to get rid of all the corruption and all the money laundering, and he knew that our banks were held by foreign interests. The people that actually owned stock in the bank were from other countries, and those other country people made the decisions about the bank. So they told the bank what to do. That translates into foreign nations having control over our United States economy rather than the people of the country. And that's what he was fighting. So he said it's not our own citizens only who are to receive the bounty of our government. More than 8 million of the stock of this bank are held by foreigners. Is there no danger to our liberty and independence in a bank that in its nature has so little to bind it to our country? And I see this happening today. And luckily, back then, Andrew Jackson was smart enough to see what these banks were doing and fought hard enough to make sure he took them out before he got out of office. And it was funny because there was a huge toss-up. People couldn't tell if the banks or if Andrew Jackson was more damaging to the people of the country. They didn't know if he was going crazy with political power or if the banks were really as corrupt as they are. And he won, and the banks went out, and everybody realized, yeah, he was right. So today we have once again a central bank because they came and took over in 1913, and now we have a Federal Reserve. So that's why we're talking about building a community reserve. How is the community reserve different from the Federal Reserve? Well, it's very similar. It does exactly the same thing. We loan out money to people in the local community so that they can utilize that currency to be able to exchange only with people in their area. So that's the difference. The difference is when we loan out currency to circulate it amongst the community, we have a zero interest, unlike the Federal Reserve that has an interest rate, which can never be paid back because the money to pay it back doesn't exist. It's also backed by local foods through our foraging programs. And we also will have no physical notes, which means we're not hurting trees, we don't have to worry about counterfeit, and there's just a whole lot of money-saving, time-saving things that go along with not using physical notes. And I suppose the other big difference, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is that this currency is not a US dollar. It's controlled by the people in their local community. So every city and town should have their own community reserve. So who's the community reserve for? It's mostly for starving students, starving artists, and retired people who aren't ready to retire yet. All three of these people have skills that are an asset to any community. If it wasn't for students, we wouldn't have people that can be the workforce of our country. If we didn't have art, well, think about an artless world. And think about all the retired people that are just pretty much forced to go and stay and sit at home all day, even though they have these amazing skills that they can provide to the community still. They can mentor people, they can provide their skills, they have a lot they could be doing, and I'm meeting more and more of them who just seem like they're losing their passion in life. And I think that's one of the reasons why people don't live as long as they could. It's not just because of health reasons, but when you're a stagnant person, you kind of start to lose your life energy. It's also great for people that have, a family garden. They have a surplus. A lot of people are trying to just give away their foods. Now we can actually put them into a system where they could sell their foods for this currency to other members in the group who can make those foods into other foods and use them for their own, or sell them back to the people who originally grew the food, or they can sell them to the public. So this could really easily get rid of a lot of food waste that's going on, and also make it so that these gardeners can grow as much as they want without feeling guilty that they're wasting food. Because there's a lot of people out there that really are good at growing certain vegetables, and they would love to just grow and grow because they're passionate about it, and they're just trying to perfect that fruit that they're getting from their plant. And the reason they don't go all out and grow as much as they can is because they really don't know what to do with it. And then this other little guy here holding all the tools, he's a lot like me. That's where I'm at. I have so many skills, I have so many tools, I have so much to offer the community. It's just I can't get that out to the people. Like, not everybody can see what it is I do, because I don't have all day and all the money to just constantly bombard people in my community saying, hey, look what I can do, hey, look what I can do. So that's really who this is for. It's for pretty much anybody, though. I mean, if you see that there's a lack of sharing the wealth in your community, and this really pertains to you. So why don't people just go out and tell everybody about what they do and start their own little business, or even if they don't start a business, even if they're doing it on the side, just to tell their neighbor, like, hey, I know how to really take good care of kids, or I'm good at tutoring. If you were wanting to go out and tell your neighborhood, besides just going and knocking on people's doors, you'd have to spend an awful lot of money just to get your name out. So this kind of just shows you a real bare bones budget on what it takes to get out one idea to your community. So you can see you could be spending as much as $775 to $1,225 a month and spend 17 to 47 hours of your time every month just letting people know what you do without even actually making any money from doing it, because you're doing these other things to get your name out instead. So all in all, it's just time for an easier way for us to exchange our energy. Right now we only have one limiting way, actually two, because we have cryptocurrencies that are out there now. It's getting really popular, and it might be a good thing, but we really only have our federal dollar. And because we have a Federal Reserve for the government to kind of control the economy and keep it in check, we also should have smaller community reserves for every town and every city for people to be able to exchange and build their wealth in their area without having to be influenced by this invisible force of the money system that's happening all around us. So everybody's heard of Benjamin Franklin. He lived in one of our most prosperous times. This is when all the great men that formed our country were living, and they call him the forefathers. He's basically one of our forefathers, and he's even on the $5 bill. And during this time of prosperity, they asked, why are the colonies doing so well? And he said, that's simple. In the colonies, we issue our own money. It is called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportion to the demands of trade and industry to make the products pass easily from the producers to the consumers. In this manner, creating for ourselves our own paper money, we control its purchasing power, and we have no interest to pay to no one. This was the key. This is how our country was so great, got built so fast. It was a superpower back in its day. We still are a superpower, obviously, but we don't have that same reputation we did a couple hundred years ago. And that's why this really struck me when I was watching a documentary that had this quote in it. And I've been looking for a way for us to be able to exchange energy between each other at great ease. And I think that's what the big deal was back then, because these people were able to do things for each other and pay with this colonial script that they had. And that money stayed in the country. It didn't go anywhere. It stayed and it built. It snowballed and got bigger and bigger and bigger. And they had to actually print money because they had more product, because they had more demands. They had to print money because it was backed by something. It had value. It wasn't backed by the debt like we have today with the Federal Reserve. And that's what's stopping us from being able to freely exchange amongst each other. So is there anything like this now? Sure. There's over 2,500 exchanges that are similar to the Community Reserve. The thing is, they cost at least $100 to join. They charge 10 to 20 bucks a month to be a member, and they require a 10% transaction fee. Plus, you have to have all your business credentials in line. You have to have your EIN, your business license, and all that kind of stuff. And also, if you see this diagram on the side, this is an economic structure. There's manufacturing, wholesale, raw materials, retail, services. And what I did is I put in the barter group because that's what this is. A typical barter exchange works. You see the blue lines here? See how these only work within each other. The money only flows from one group to the next. So retail, you're looking at what? Buying some clothes. Services, you're looking at getting a massage or going to the dentist. So between these two, I'll trade some clothes, I'll trade a dentist. There's other people in the group, but basically they're all retail and they're all services exchanging. There's no manufacturers giving stuff into it. There's no wholesalers giving anything into it. There's no raw materials putting anything into the system. So what happens when this retail guy that's getting services from someone or buying other goods, what happens when he needs raw materials? What if he wants to make his own food? You can't go buy food in these other barter groups. You can't go to a wholesaler and buy a whole bunch of stuff on barter. That just doesn't work. That's not how it works. So why are we different? Because we're going to penetrate those other economic sectors. We're foraging food to back up our currency. So it's estimated that there's $1 million in edible food crops that are always in season in Phoenix. It's all mismanaged food. It gets thrown away, wasted. A lot of it doesn't even have a chance to grow because people will trim the plants before they even have a chance to fruit. So this is how we're working it. Notice all these lines. We even have money coming into the system, actual real currency. The green lines showing how real currency enters the system. We have an escrow account. That escrow account is used for making farmers markets, doing monthly potlucks, weekly meetings, workshops with our members. And you can see all the blue lines, they all penetrate every sector of this economic structure. That's healthy. That's what perpetuates the money to keep going around and around without anybody losing the value. It just keeps getting recycled and regenerates. So I've been working on this for a number of years now, over 6 years. I went from being a 26-year-old making over $60,000 a year plus a bunch of money on the side when we had that really awesome bubble happening in the housing market. I was positioned properly to be running a tile and stone showroom for 4 years, and I was working with very wealthy people to help them build their dream houses around Scottsdale. And I thought, oh yeah, there's an economic downturn, that's going to be terrible for all the people that have no money and have bad jobs. I had no idea that this invisible structure existed, that this economy had control over somebody as skilled as I was, with as much energy and passion to go out and do things for the community as I did. I thought I was literally immune to anything that could happen in the economy. So by 2009, the company I was working for went under because there was literally nobody going and putting new things into their home. And if they were, they really weren't spending that much money, and we were more of a boutique style company. So I really got depressed, and it woke me up. I kind of felt like I hit rock bottom, And that's when I started, back in 2009, is when I really started looking around to try to find out what happened and how I can stop it from happening again. I didn't want it to happen to me ever again. And as I learned more and more, I realized it wasn't just about me, but it was about everybody, not just in our country, but in the world. I didn't realize that our federal U.S. dollar had the power it does over the entire globe. And I started really finding out what's wrong with the economic system and how it's corrupt, and looking for a solution. For 6 years I've been looking for a solution. So I've been doing a lot of research. I've been in other barter groups since 2009. That's really how I got back on my feet, to be honest with you, is just doing barter work, because I literally went homeless and was living out of my car in 2009. And because I had no bills, I was able to work strictly on barter. So that's really what got me here, and I know what it takes to do barter. I know what it takes to run a business. I have 2 businesses that are, pretty much running themselves now. So I know it takes software, it takes the website, it takes mentors, it takes a billing location, an office, a phone, bank, community of people. It takes a business entity. It takes an escrow account to help with our members, to help manage what we're going to spend our money on. It takes a market, like a farmer's market, a place for us to get together and show each other what we can do. Potlucks, so we can get together at the end of the month and everybody meet everybody. We got networking meetings, food, email, marketing, free workshops, trust, a computer, partners in the community. We need other businesses that are partners that want to work with us to make this a success. Community leaders, an accountant, a lawyer, and office supplies. And I'm here to ask you, what else do we need? I personally have taken care of the software, the software, the website, the mentors, the phone, the bank. I'm getting together the community now. That's why you're here listening to me. I've got the business entity taken care of. Don't have really any of these other things done. I got the email. I got the computer. I've got the free workshops, but everything else on here we need. So I've got about half of this stuff done, and I'm really calling on people that are going to be members of this to really come and take a role. And guess what? You can get paid in barter currency for helping. So this is what I see when we spend the dollar. Every time I spend a dollar, this is where I think it comes from. This is exactly how I see it. I was really surprised when I saw this. I was like, that's the image. That's exactly what we're doing. Because I'm an arborist and I use a wood chipper, this really resonated with me. So let's go from supporting less of this, move more into supporting this. How we can fix this. How we can share with each other. We can all get along, and we can make this world a much more beautiful place for us and for our future generations. Let's let America live on. Let's get a community reserve.